So in my last video, I showed you how to get back into a PC that's asking for a BitLocker recovery key. And the question I saw floating around the most was, why is this even happening? Because I never turned on BitLocker. And that's completely fair because most people who hit this genuinely never switched anything on. So let me show you why Windows does it and how to stop it. Windows has had device encryption for years, but for most of that time, it only switched itself on for a few machines. That changed with Windows 11 24H2. Microsoft dropped some of the hardware requirements that were holding it back. So now it applies to a much wider range of PCs than it used to, including plenty of desktops that never had it before, and including home editions of Windows. You still need UEFI, Secure Boot, and a TPM, but that's most machines sold in the last several years, which is exactly why so many of you are running into this issue. Now, the part that really hurts is this. The encryption starts during the setup process, before you've really done anything. But whether your recovery key ever gets saved anywhere depends on how you sign in. If you sign in with a Microsoft account, then the key goes up to that account, so you can get it later. Set the machine up with a local account instead, which if you followed my channel for a while, you'd know is what I do, and that step never happens. So you can end up in the worst spot there is, which is a drive that's encrypted with a key that isn't saved anywhere you can reach. So the first thing to do is find out where your own machine stands. You can right-click on your Start button, open Terminal as administrator, and then type the following command you see on screen now, and press Enter. And you're looking for two lines in there. Conversion status tells you whether the drive is encrypted, and protection status tells you whether that encryption is actually protecting anything. And those two can disagree. You can have a drive that says it's fully encrypted, while protection is off, which means the key is sitting right there on the drive in the clear, but the moment protection says on, it's live, and a recovery key genuinely matters. So if protection is on and you want to keep it that way, there are two things to sort out today. The first is to get your key out. So go to the Microsoft accounts page, then devices, and have a look for the recovery key link. And go and check right now rather than assuming, because I've heard from plenty of people who were sure it would be there and then it wasn't. Then save your own copy as well. Open the control panel, go to BitLocker Drive Encryption, and click on Back up your recovery key. It won't let you save that onto the encrypted drive itself, which makes sense when you think about it. So put it on a flash drive or print it, and honestly maybe even do both. But honestly, print a physical copy of it because it's the best way to do it in case you hit a boot failure and you can't read the key from a USB flash drive anyway. Now the second one is the most common way people get locked out, and it's completely avoidable. BitLocker ties itself to your hardware through the TPM. So when you update your BIOS, or you turn Secure Boot on or off, the TPM sees the machine isn't the same anymore and it won't hand over the key. So before you do any of that, go to the control panel, BitLocker Drive Encryption, and click on Suspend Protection. That lets the machine boot no matter what changed. Do your update, boot back into Windows, and turn protection on again. 10 seconds, and it's the difference between a firmware update being routine and it turning into a very bad evening. Now, another point on these BIOS updates is that Windows has started to push BIOS updates through Windows Update. And some users have hit the BitLocker recovery key screen after installing a Windows update because it also updated their BIOS. And in that case, you wouldn't have even gone and suspended the protection anyway. That's why it's good to check this now while you still have access to your PC. Now, if you just don't want any of this happening in the first place, you can stop it before Windows is even installed. So when you boot the installer and you get that very first setup screen, press Shift and F10 together for a command prompt. Then type regedit and press Enter. Now navigate to the following key that you see on screen now, and then create the following DWORD 32-bit value called Prevent Device Encryption. Then after that, set the value data to 1. Then you can close that window, close the command prompt, and carry on with the install as normal. And the drive comes out encrypted and stays that way. And if you're doing a lot of installs, you don't have to do that by hand every time either. You can bake it into an answer file, which is exactly the kind of thing WinHance builds for you. But let me be honest about the trade-off, because it's a real one. If your laptop gets stolen, an unencrypted drive can be read by anybody who takes it out. So on a laptop that leaves the house, I'd rather you keep encryption on and you just have your key printed and filed somewhere. On a desktop that sits at home and never moves, turning it off is a very reasonable call. It's your machine and your risk. I just want you making that choice on purpose instead of finding out about it the hard way.